So, I think it's about time that I do my tutorial on tombing. Next episode and all. It's not going to be on my necro because my necro doesn't have an 100% success rate in tombs when soloing. It's, I'd say, more like 60 or 75%. So I'm going to do it on my rogue instead, where I have a just about 100% chance of success, okay? So without further ado, let's tomb. What? Okay, so oh my god, tombs. There's so much you need to know if you don't know anything, and I'm going to assume that you don't. So, to begin with, before we even leave the boss room, you'll notice that we're in the boss room. So, yeah, that was an easy rush. Look at that, guys. Pro as heck rush. Didn't even see an enemy. That's how fast I was going. But not really. You start in the boss room. Now, these guys right now all look sandy, but they're all going to change color except for him. He barely changes color. But let's take before we do anything more difficult, let's just take a quick glance around at what we got in here, okay? So first we got this guy. This guy's Bess. He's fat, and he's the tank. So his job is basically to absorb stray bullets for his friends. So he's just a dick and heavy and all the death, all the HP. He's a tank, he does a bit of damage, he does a bit of armor break, he's pretty brutal, and I'll talk about the kill order later. Second, we've got over here Nut. She's blue, you'll see it, and she's called Nut, well, because she's an Egyptian goddess, but also because her rage is absolutely nutty. She's really easy right up until the very end when she murders everything in sight like a mad god. Even better than Oryx does, so that's pretty neat. And then this Geb, he's just damage dealer, so I mean, when he's awake, sitting on him is a bad idea. But he's actually not that scary on his own because he has no real way to force his bullets to hit you. So yeah, you can see that no one's being shot. Now, before we leave, I also want to go through which classes are good at tombs, because a lot of people want to bring classes into tombs that often aren't allowed because of the way the bosses work, which I'll explain later. But basically, the issue... Actually, you know what? I'll explain now how the bosses work. It'll be better this way. So when they awaken, usually you want to start off by just killing Beth. But when they awaken, all of them will just start circling and they won't shoot. Like, you could literally stand right here and nothing would happen. I also notice there's quicksand everywhere. The longer you stay in it, the slower you get. And then you can get out. So when they awaken, they won't shoot at all three of them. Then once you do, I think it's 1,000 damage to each one, they'll, like, when you do 1,000 damage, they'll awaken. They'll start shooting waves and waves of these big weakening shots. And they don't do any damage, the big weakening shots, but they do weaken you for quite some time, which makes it hard to do damage, especially to Bess. So typically you won't want to keep them there for long, so I think it's another, like, a couple thousand damage max to get them pushed past the weakening phase into their actual phases. And later on, they'll spawn artifacts. Now, the thing is, most people don't want to fight all three at once, right? Because if you awaken one, the other two are still fast asleep, just circling the room, saying, like, they won't say anything. They'll circle, they just won't shoot, they won't do anything. So typically, you want to just do one at a time. But if you're shooting one, like, oh my god, fighting Best, dodging his bullets, and then you go, whoa, dodge, whoops, that's going to awaken a second one and make it the tomb twice as hard. And if you do that to a third one, it makes it 3 times as hard. So there's certain classes that typically aren't even allowed into tombs. So first of all, any class with a staff, with a double shot, they're very frequently not allowed in tombs because it's very easy while shooting 2 shots to have one shot hit and the other one go through. And when they're all circling the room like they are when the boss is awakened, like before even being shot, they will all circle. It's really easy for that stray shot to awaken someone. So staffs are not really good, and wands are sort of along the same lines, because I mean, if I miss with my dagger, it goes a tiny bit. If I miss with a wand, it's going to keep going, and it's really easy for one of the other gods to just walk right into it and take a bit of damage. On top of that, 3-shot bows, not usually allowed. If you have a Doom bow, it's typically allowed. Even the T7 bow is usually allowed that shoots a single shot, but the 3-shot bows are not typically allowed. That's not to say that these weapons can't be used. I've seen a lot of people use them by being pros and just like sitting in the middle, but if you want, when you're a noob tomber, people won't want you in their tombs because they won't want it to be FFA, so when you're new, I strongly suggest a dagger or sword class, okay, or a katana, because they're just the easiest ones to keep it clean, because like it's almost difficult to make them awake. And I also suggest a pet with no attack. Now, you'll notice that I sort of do have attack, and it's something I regret, and it actually occasionally makes my tombs FFA. My pet is strong enough to awaken, not Best, because he's got a lot of defense, and not really Geb either, because he's got a bit, but Nut, who has no defense. My pet will often end up awakening her. And so you'll see I'm actually very slow at the start of Best. Usually people just go in on the start of Best because it's really easy. I actually am a little more careful, and I run out a lot because my pet can indeed awakened nut, which is my fault. Usually you'd want one with just heal and M-heal. You'd even sacrifice a bit of heal and M-heal if you don't have a really good one. You want heal, M-heal, and then like a useless ability. Attack fire is really bad. Attack close can be controlled. Electric, depends on if you're good at using it. And like Savage, Decoy. Decoy is good. Savage, I believe, is okay. And then, no, Savage I think is the one that does damage. Anyways, you just don't want damaging abilities. And so those are the classes. That's why I chose Rogue. Now you understand why I didn't use Necro. And now, let's, without further ado, look at the enemies. Okay, now I'm only going to show you one of each enemy and then I'm going to sort of rush. But also I'm going to look at the rooms. So before I even go in, you want to explore the boss room. You'll see these little exits. Every path is correct. There's no dead ends. It's not like a UDL or an Abyss. And when you go in, let me just kill this guy because he actually does a lot of damage. That's the red bug. You'll notice he's a swarm. He'll keep spawning minions. He is annoying to knights because, as you can see, like to all the sword classes, because as you can see, he does a lot of bullets and all armor-breaking shots. But he can be finished off pretty easily. Now, when you get into the room, you'll see confusing, and you'll see these little bombs. Everyone notices those bombs, right? So those are the traps, the bomb traps, and the way that they work is they keep shooting until you stand on the pressure pad in the middle. Now, these are scarabs. Those guys that are shooting confusers are called the mummies, I believe, and they spawn a bunch of scarabs. They don't do much damage, but if they touch you, they paralyze you. And anyone that plays this game knows dodging is critical, and getting paralyzed is absolutely brutal. And they are, like, even more rushy than things in the Abyss. I mean, look at that. Abyss of Demons don't even rush that hard. So they're pretty brutal. You need to keep an eye out on them. And you can see that the swarms are also fairly annoying. So let me just deal with this so I can show you some more enemies. Because so far we've only had 2. Now, this is a very full room. And you'll see that those mummies actually kill themselves, turning the entire selves into scarabs over time. Now that's a weakening bug. It's the same as the red one, except it does weaken instead. It's actually not that bad as long as you actually have good DPS. I would definitely suggest coming in here with at least 6-8. It just makes it so much less likely that you'll die. And that way it doesn't matter if you get weakened. Now, let's just take a... Whoops, that was a bad dodge. But yeah, you'll see... Aha! So this is a Jackal. He's the #1 killer in my opinion for all classes. He's the one I use my ability against. Now, he's going to try to stay a medium distance from you at first, and he's going to throw all of his minions between you and him. And those black shots he's shooting do a lot of damage, and actually the minions do a lot of damage as well. And you're going to see that he's chasing me. He's going to chase and chase and chase and chase and chase and chase until... What the heck? Coward! Yeah, he's a very smart enemy. When he's low on health, he's actually going to run away from you, which can make a lot of classes, like a sword class, that end up pushing him into a corner like this, and then pinning him down. But those bullets, they will hurt. And he drops potions pretty nicely. So that's like the main enemy that you need to worry about, is the Jackal. Everything else actually does not do that much damage. It's still a lot more damage than any other event. Now, you'll notice this is a switch. You sit on it for 3 seconds, and boom, all those are gone. Now, this one was really easy, but sometimes there's a lot of enemies, or there's a tower, which we'll get to later, that'll prevent you from doing that, and also they don't work when you're cloaked. So don't think you're going to cloak in, sit 1, 2, 3, and then get off. That's not going to work. It stops counting while you're cloaked. Now, you'll see there's a split in the path, but every path leads to a Sarc, okay, or a T-Sarc. There's 5 sarcophagi that you need to kill to awaken the bosses, and then there'll be a quest. Treasure Sarcs drop defense and attack pots and speed pots as well, and they're sort of like Godlands drops. So they're fun to kill, and they don't count. You can kill them or not kill them. You don't need to kill them for the bosses to awaken, and they're not a quest. So let's go. Let's take a look at this room. Now that tower there is a central. There's 2 types of every kind of tower. There's central, which is in the middle and the most dangerous kind, and there's the hallway, which will be somewhere else in the room, which can be more dangerous depending on where they are. So this is a central armor break tower. Those shots will do armor break, and I can prove it like that. Actual armor break, not just armor pierce. So they can be very deadly, especially if you're in battle. So you're just going to want to skirt that one, avoid it. And this room's actually low on enemies. If this room had a lot of enemies, it would be a tricky. Now that there is a side paralyzed tower. All those yellow shots, will paralyze you. And, confused, and scarabs. Pleasant experience, guys. Pleasant. So yeah, you want to make sure you're pretty good with confused controls before trying to clear this. Typically someone will rush for you, and I will cover rushing after I've covered one of every enemy. But yeah, so these are the mummies. There they go. They just explode into their little scarabs. They're pretty easy to deal with. Paralyzed tower, you have to get it just right and sort of sneak between. They can be absolutely brutal, though, if they're at the end of a hallway. And that was actually a really boring room. Let's go to the next one and see what's in here. More red bugs and blue bugs. I think I covered these. There's a 3rd type of bug as well, It's the yellow bug, and it does blind and confuse, so it's a sort of nasty sucker. I'm just using, like, normally you just can kill these by rushing into them or something or using your ability, but I'm using my cloak just to make it go a bit quicker for you guys. Let's finish them off, finish that off, finish that off. And let's pop these. There's the confused guys, you can sort of tank those and boom, and that makes it a little bit safer. Now, I'm waiting for the scarabs to pop out. Now that's a side slow tower, as you can tell by the blue bullets. They'll slow you, they'll do a bit of damage, especially if your armor broken, but all in all, they aren't really a major threat. These scarabs are annoying me. And see, there they go. They'll paralyze you, and they'll sort of chain the paralyzers together. Now let's go this way. Let's see what we find in here. Another jackal. Those are called jackal, and those little minions are called jackal minions. Real surprise there. And this is all enemies we've seen before. That's another side slow tower. And you'll notice he doesn't run towards or away if you're cloaked, which makes them a bit easier to kill when you're cloaked. And the rogue is probably my favorite two-man class, just because rogues can rush, and rogues can deal with Geb, which I'll talk about that later. Actually, while I kill, I'll talk about rages. The idea behind rages here is... Actually, why am I killing this? I'll show you the rush later, actually, yeah. So anyways, the idea behind the rage is that at the end, when every boss is about to die, all three, they go into what's called rage. And they'll do a lot more damage, and they'll have a cool pattern. They'll be in rage mode, and I'll explain how you can tell when they're about to go into it. But they're all dangerous, and they all require special care to kill, and I'll show you that. Sometimes the towers are close enough to the button that they'll be shooting at you, in which case you either need a knight to stun it, or you'll just have to not push the button. You don't need to just turn off all the traps. Let's see if we can get a new enemy in here, one that you haven't seen yet. It's typically a lot of other enemies. It's not usually bugs and jackals. It's usually more... Ah, there we go, that's one. That there is the priest, and you'll notice he's actually healing up his friends with sort of like a heal scepter, almost like a sorcerer. I always get Sorc and Psych mixed up whenever I'm in a tomb. Sort of like a sorcerer, he's healing up using like a sort of heal scepter, you can imagine. And I will show you him as well. He shoots fairly low damage shots. And he sort of shoots them towards you and all around like that, and he tries to stay a medium distance away, which can make him annoying for knights to hit. Everything in here tries to stay a medium distance away, so you have to corner them. That's an archer, okay, and those black doombow shots will paralyze, which is annoying, and his normal shots do a fair bit of damage, and he also, as you can see, runs away like a little girl, and he's very good at it. He doesn't just stay a medium distance, he runs away like an absolute little girl running away. So... to kill him, you usually have to corner him. So he does stay a large distance away, but he doesn't always run away. He'll stay a medium distance away if possible. And you're going to want to try to push him into a corner. There we go. And now, if you just get the right angle, you'll see as he does more as he gets more hurt, he also throws these nasty grenades like a Medusa. But he can be taken down without too much thought. And now I can just go in and get that. Now we're missing just one enemy, I think, the platypus, or whatever it's called. And we will see that shortly, if we're lucky. And then I'll show you how to rush, and then this thing will go a little bit quicker as we head towards the bosses. Let's see what we got here. We got more mummies spawning their scarabs. Doesn't usually take me this long because I usually rush, and you'll see in a lot of tombs, even public tombs, someone will usually rush. Now, public tombs don't stay clean. For public tombs, you actually change who you want. So if there's a lot of people in the tomb and you don't know them all, it's probably going to be what's called FFA, or free-for-all. In that case, the bosses aren't going to be done one at a time. They're all going to be done at the same time. It's much more dangerous. But if you have, 50 people, it doesn't really matter. Everything gets steamrolled anyways. In that case, you want your staff classes and your wand classes because they've got the extra range, and your bow classes because they've got the extra range and they can go in on all the scary parts while everyone else has to stay out. But most people do not like FFA tombs, so if you're able to keep it clean, that's pro. That's good. Let's take this guy down to the corner. There we go. Alright, so we didn't see any new enemy yet, but we're at a Sarc, which has new enemies. So, when you enter a Sarc room, you will see a bunch of guys circling a central thing. Don't shoot the central thing, shoot the guys circling. Okay, they will circle around, and eventually they'll shoot a lot of weakens, so most people sitting here will always be weakened, sort of like when they're fighting a crystal. But you just kill each one. There's nothing that special about them except that, like the bosses, until you shoot them, they're asleep, and then they jump in, become yellow, and wake up, and then they go black and go in for a heal, and then they go red and rage. It's exactly like the bosses. They're basically miniature versions of the bosses themselves. And they do a fair bit of damage, as you can see. I just tanked a fair bit of damage. But it just takes practice and dodging, and you can kill them all. They all circle the same way. You can just sort of circle with them. Try to avoid the weakens, but you don't necessarily have to. It's all the round shots that weaken, and the non-round ones do damage. And you can just sort of make sure that when they turn black like that and head in for a heal, you kill them right away. Otherwise, they'll heal up and come out much stronger. So it's just best to, when they turn black, it's time to go for the kill. Okay, and we can do another one. Nice and easy. There's blue and purple ones. I do not know if there's any difference. I think it's just the different gender. You know, priests versus priestesses. And you can just keep trying to finish them off. Okay, just a few left. You see, it can go pretty quick if you just sort of focus on one at a time. A lot of people will just blast at everything they see, and they'll get weakened, and it'll take 10 times longer, and it's easier just to do them one at a time, focus on each one, and bring them down, just like you do with the bosses. Nice and easy, nice and focused, and GG. And now this guy, a lot of people don't know, when you hurt this guy, he blasts out stuns. Everyone knows that. And he blasts out 3 waves of them. But there's actually a way to survive them. If you make it so you're facing straight up, go beneath him, perfectly beneath him, and then go as far down as you can and still shoot him, and sort of edge yourself to the left just a bit, so you're sort of standing between the 2 tiles. Now when he awakens, all of his stuns will miss. It's a sweet spot. It's easy to miss it, and they don't do any damage to those stuns, but as you can see right there, didn't get stunned, so I can shoot right through. They've got a lot of health, but he doesn't heal anymore. The priests heal him. And I can just wait here and do this. Now if you have a mystic, a knight, a pally, and a warrior, you can actually rush in, stasis all the priests, and then insta kill the Sarks. It's a little trickier, but if you're going to do that, someone will explain how. Anyways, yeah, they drop tinks. They don't really drop anything useful. Now I'm going to rush a bit farther ahead since I've already cleared this entire area and try to find us a new enemy type. Alright, and yeah, there is no way to disable towers. Now let's, another side paralyzed tower, another weakened bug. Pleasant, and red bug as well. I'm very, very slow. You can see if you accidentally get caught in the quicksand, it can be very deadly. If I wasn't a rogue there, that could have forced Nexus. That was pretty brutal, because you just can't move. And if you get slowed while down there, I believe you can actually get to the point where you just straight up can't even move, which is pretty brutal. So let's just kill these. I can go invisible so they don't try to paralyze me as much. Scarabs are just annoying once you get good at them, but they can kill you during the bosses, and you'll see that later. I'll try to finish off all these bugs for you. Actually, do you guys mind? I'm just going to skip that room and go to this one. I'm going to rush ahead a bit without telling you how to rush, just to find us the last enemy, and then I'll cover rushing soon. Don't worry. I'm not ditching you. I just want to see if that enemy's in here. No. Where is the bacon thrower? The magical bacon throwing platypus. Archer. These are a lot easier to kill when you're invisible because they don't run away like the cowards they are. Now typically in these rooms there will be a platypus with the bacon, but I don't see any. I see a lot of priests. I see a lot of, well, cat priests or whatever they're called. And I see a lot of archers, and I see no platypi, which is a little annoying. So let's just keep moving. Okay, I'm going to speed through this site, guys. You don't need to watch it. Alright, let's try to see if we can find another bacon thrower. Bacon thrower, where are you? Or a yellow bug. That would be cool too. Something's wrong with this. There we go, yellow bug. Let's look at that in a sec. Let's clear this room so I can show you the yellow bug. Ow. That's a bit painful. I'm not really paying attention much here. I usually rush through these parts. I've been just trying to get us to that bug so we can see what it does. Now, when you look at this bug, the bug swarm up there, the yellow ones, some of their shots do quiet, sorry, not do blind, and some of their shots do weaken. Now, I don't want to get hit by any of them because they actually do a bit of damage here, but there we go, blind. You see, this, the really bright yellow does blind, and the darker yellow, like the duller yellow, these ones do confuse if I ever got hit by them. And the little bugs go out and explode. All swarms have those little bugs going out and trying to EP you with a little explosion. You just gotta watch out for that. They can just, if you're max, they don't kill you instantly, and so if you happen to get unlucky enough to hit all of them, you'll just recover and move on. Just never be at low health while fighting anything in here. Now let's continue the rush and try to find another bacon thrower. Bacon thrower, where are you? Where are you, bacon thrower? Okay, come on, bacon thrower, bacon thrower, bacon thrower. Ah, bacon thrower, bacon thrower. Okay, so this is the eagle sentry, also known as bacon thrower because he throws bacon at you. He's not actually really a special enemy. We've been searching for really a boring enemy. He chases and then leaves. He's sort of like a mini version of a jackal, I'd say. He doesn't do that much damage, but he can, finish you off. He's just another enemy. Another enemy. So now I'm going to speed through this Sarc and then show you how to rush. Okay, I'm actually going to use my plane walker up ahead to get back to start room nice and quick, because it's near where the other one is. Now, for rushing, any class can rush a tomb. I know this because I've actually rushed it on my Necro a couple times. I've rushed it on Sorc. It is rushable for almost every class. It's just very difficult, okay? It's like the second hardest thing to rush. So when you're rushing, you want to watch out for your confuses, because confuse can get you in trouble if you're not good with it. You definitely need good confuse controls, and 6-8 for sure. Other people can do it with less, and I've done it with less, but it's not. You're more likely to die than to succeed. Now, most enemies are not really important. You don't want to get paralyzed, so watch out. The archers still shoot a bit while rushing. You basically just want to hug the walls, and you'll get to the sites pretty quick. You need to watch out for things in hallways, though, especially jackals, because if you sit on a jackal, regardless of how maxed you are, they hurt a lot with their little. They throw a little bit of a shotgun out, and they can do a lot of damage to a rusher that's not aware. So to get them out of the hallway, you can always drag them out, because remember, their first phase is their chase phase. They start off chasing, and then they run away. So while they're chasing you, you can pull them out of the hallway. Another thing that can be dangerous for rushers and non-rushers is, of course, any tower at the end of your hallway shooting down at you. So you have to keep an eye out for those, too, because if you're rushing, you might get too far and realize you can't go back. I would always suggest having an anchor, if possible, when rushing. That's you type /teleport into your chat, you click out of your chat, and you put the person's name in there, so that when you double hit enter, you'll go back to them. You can sort of understand how that works. Just teleport Joe Bob. Uh-oh, you see I didn't kill that guy in time, and now he's coming out raging and at full health. Right here, so let me finish him off. There we go. And I'm going to speed through the rest of the Sarcs, because rushing is actually not that complicated. It's the same as rushing anything else. You just avoid enemies, watch out for any dangerous towers, and practice makes perfect. Really, for rushing tombs, practice makes perfect. Make sure you got your anchor, and just nexus if necessary. You'll miss a few tombs, but it's well worth it to become very good at rushing. Also, when you rush through a room, you'll awaken all of the scarabs, so you definitely want to make sure that you're good at dealing with scarabs, which usually means avoiding the swarm, like sort of dodging to the side of the swarm, and like using your ability, even if necessary, to disable the swarm so they don't, because they do shoot to paralyze. If you stun them, they won't paralyze, or if you can keep your distance from them or get them killed, then they don't paralyze you as well. So that's completely valid methods. Yeah, let's finish off this Sarc, and I will rush. Now, if you look at the minimap, every path always leads to something. At least one Sarc. So there's never a dead end, like, oh, I went this way, the Sarc wasn't here. It'll at least bring you to a T-Sarc. So that's nice. You can see the last Sarc's there. I think I know how to get to it. I'm actually going to take a bit of a shortcut, though, if possible. It's not possible, just a bit too far. Dang it. Oops, I should have used Planewalker there. Planewalker can be really useful for things in hallways because you can jump right over them. See, look at that. You see, when you go through again, there's scarabs absolutely everywhere. And you just have to deal with the fact that scarabs are going to want to paralyze your butt. It's a very easy way to die, though. That's how most rushers get killed, is they get swarmed by scarabs, and then they sort of get screwed. And you'll see I'll hug the walls, but I'll keep my eyes open. That's a side armor break tower, by the way. You can see that the top is flashing red. But you can see that I'm hugging the walls, and looking for those exits. Trying to find those exits, and there it is. And let's go over here, and over here. Screen rotation's a must. Sneaky, 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 and bam, last Sarc. This is the 5th one, I've been counting. And so after this, it will be boss time. And they will say, enough of your vandalism! You have awakened us! Oh, and they'll get upset with you. And that's the cue to go back home and finish them off, which is the more difficult part of the tomb, honestly. As with everything else, bosses are harder. As hard as this part is, especially if you're not maxed, the bosses are harder.